Joey, I deal with buyers all day long.
For sure.
With getting buyers financing, helping them navigate the loan process, the buying process. What do you see on the seller side of things? What do you have to deal with with the sellers?
Don't act like you care about my seller stuff. No, it's a good point. We, even when we were in here a week ago talking, we spend so much time talking about buyers in this high interest environment, sort of this unsure market environment and what it's like to make an offer in it. I feel like that's kind of where we focus 80-90% of our conversation. So I'm glad you asked me that. A tough and interesting time. People still have to sell for a variety of reasons. It's not a listing of mine, but I'm looking at a place right now with some folks and the sellers both just got new jobs. You have to sell, or theoretically you have to sell. You need some capital in order to, something in your life change. You got to sell your home. So there's the other side of it. It's not all just about uncertain buying times. There's people that have to sell their home. And what I'm really noticing, I've had two different types of listings. I've had listings that have been dead silent, and that sucks. It's a really hard thing to deal with. And then I've had listings that have been like popping off.
Do you see that there is a specific price point at where things are either popping off and or they're just sitting right now?
I don't think it's price point. I think it's price. So I've obviously spent some time trying to piece together, why do I have some listings that are really, really struggling? And I have to tell these folks week after week after week that we're still on the market. And then I have some where I have to go host a mass group showing because there's too many people calling.
Right.
And what it has come down to is price, period.
Do you think that sellers still maybe have a little bit of unrealistic expectations when it comes to price, being that earlier in the year, the market was so hot, it was a seller's market. They could command the price, where we've seen things cool down to where maybe they're just not adapting to the current market.
It's 1,000,000%. That's, of course, it's human nature, right? Your friends, your family are all sold in the spring, and there were bidding wars and setting records on the block. And maybe you thought about selling at that time, so you have a certain number in your head. That's fine, we can get past that. The part that I've talked about before that's crazy to me, and it's taken me as a real estate agent, an investor to realize this, incremental differences in where you choose to price your home are so important. If you try to stretch 2-3% higher than really what it should be, that might be the dead silent listing. And I don't have a scientific reason. I'm trying to figure out the psychology of the real estate market. I'll give you an example. I'm going to a showing right after this, and I'm sure my client's probably watching. We priced something right where I wanted to, and a tick below where this client wanted to, and it's popping off. Human nature is, should we have priced it higher? And I'm so confident in telling you no.
Right.
People are coming because we priced it correctly, not because we priced it too low.
Right.
Because $5,000-$10,000 higher, I promise you, half of the people that are coming wouldn't come. I mean, I know it's not your job to know this, but how is that the case? Because so many people think, well, won't people just come and offer less? You can't get people to come and offer less. They just won't come.
Right. And it's also kind of the old adage, I don't want to say a bird in the hand, but understanding that if you didn't price it the way you did, it's almost like not to get too greedy in this market, right?
Yeah, and then especially because then you're sitting for a couple weeks. So here's another example. Let's go $10,000 higher than you're saying, Joey, right?
Right.
Go $10,000 higher, and worst case, we'll drop it. 2 to 3 weeks have gone by. Now you're starting to build a stench. Right. Not that 2 to 3 weeks is that bad, but the hot zone on listings is the first 2 weeks.
Right.
It's pre-marketing. It's your first weekend of open houses. It's not to say you can't sell it 30, 60 days in, but now you're kind of like, please, someone please come. So you're wasting the hot zone, those first 2 weeks, on the wrong price. And if there's anything I've learned this year, just being a listing agent, you got to call reality what it is.
Right.
Even if it's hard to hear, I hate disappointing people. And sometimes sellers are stuck on breaking even. How many times do you hear that?
Right.
As long as I could just break even. The market doesn't care.
Right.
I've been there. I've sold a place that I really need to get 675. Well, it's going to be 660.
Right.
So
In my field, with interest rates rising, do you see it to where the sellers, or that there's enough buyers out there now that are still, there's a big enough buyer pool right now to where there's still enough people out there that are going to offer on a listed property right now?
yeah, some of the factors in this market are irregular, and some of this is irregular, but in general, like, to me, this is kind of a normal market.
Right.
In a way, like, pricing is pretty normal. Like, the amount of offers is maybe a smidge below. I think, we've touched on this a million times. We got so used to this in the last couple springs, just like insanity, that I think some of us have forgotten that wasn't normal. I get it. Demand is down right now. Supply is down, but like, there's people move.
Sure.
People don't want to pay these astronomical rents. So yes, we're still seeing offers and stuff moving. I think there's enough demand out there given the low supply. Now, if supply all of a sudden kicked up, it'd be interesting.
Right. But are you also possibly seeing it to where maybe that initial seller, if they're in the 2s or 3s, initially they were going to sell that, buy a new place. But now, because their payment is so low on that property, maybe now they're considering, hey, maybe I should keep this property, rent it out, and keep it as an investment tool, and then go buy something else.
So I've seen it. I've seen the investment tool. I'm wondering if maybe the reason I haven't seen your first example there, which is, hey, let's stay put. We have a 2.5, because those people aren't calling me. Right. They're staying put. So
right.
You may have just cracked the code as to why supply is down. Because maybe a lot of the people that moved in the last, 2 to 3 years are maybe just gonna be more comfortable in that place. But again, I think we're gonna have a healthy enough amount of supply and demand that we're gonna see real estate trading. And I still think we'll see our seasonality. I think the spring will bring a lot more. And
are you comfortable with your monthly payment? If you are, then go ahead. You should buy the home if you're comfortable with that.
But I guess what I'm saying, like, sorry to cut you off, aren't you pretty impressed with, like, I have found that people are keeping that. The actual people in the market, that is what they're coming. They've almost, like you said, they've come to terms with the new environment, and they are focusing on that. They're not beating themselves over the head about interest rates.
Listen, the rate's gonna be the rate. I mean, whether it's 5, 6, 7, it's a number. It's psychologically, it's a number. Yes, it correlates to your monthly payment. But again, you, Mr. Buyer, are you comfortable with a monthly payment? If you are, then hey, let's go. It's a good time to get into the market. And again, like we've talked about before, eventually when rates come down, you'll refinance, and then your payment will come down as well.
Is there anything you or Guaranteed Rate are doing specifically, like in this time, during this sort of shocking time, that might stand out as an advantage to buyers? Or is it kind of like all you guys are in the same boat and it is what it is?
I think from an interest rate environment, it's a competitive market, but we're all playing in the same sandbox and we're all pretty competitive with each other. So what do we do to stand out from our competition? We leverage our speed, our technology, our efficiency to where right now I can, with the utmost confidence, say I can manufacture a loan and get the buyer from the day they sign the application to a clear to close in 10 days or less. Why that's important is, and again, in a competitive market, if you're competing against an all cash offer, if you're competing against other buyers who have pre-approval letters, a seller wants to know, hey, I want to feel secure. I want to know that the loan is clear to close. I want to know that I'm going to get my money in the fastest time possible.
I mean, we just had a shared client where I had you make a phone call on their behalf during the offer process. That exact statement and the fact that my counterpart knew of you and you guys, and myself,
right?
It made a difference. We won in a multiple offer situation. So I think it sounds like what you're talking about is you're trying to play around the margins. You're going to be as competitive as possible,
right?
But some of those, I always tell people, as a realtor, if I could give you a 10% better chance by using me instead of using XYZ Realtor, it's 10%.
Correct.
Right? So it almost sounds like the service that you're able to provide might just be pushing them ahead 10, 15, 20%, but don't discount that.
Not at all.
That could be the difference.
Right. And listen, we all know cheapest doesn't always mean the best. Rarely does it mean
No,
the
it
best.
doesn't.
Can you scour the internet for hours and hours and hours and find a lender who's going to be 0.1% better, maybe a quarter, or their lending fees might be $500 or $600 cheaper? Sure, you scour the internet long enough, you will. I can guarantee you, you are going to have a bumpy ride, and it's not going to be a seamless, stress-free, easy transactional experience.
Yep.
We're not going to the farmer's market and buying apples here. We're doing the largest purchase of your lifetime. You want to be in good hands.
What do you have against the apples at the farmer's market, Scott?